Normally here on my YouTube channel, I tend to have discussions with my muse about the craft of writing or the craft of acting, and I wanted to take a moment this time around to do something different. Hold on to your seats, people, because this is going to get real. The other day, my wife and I were watching an episode of Grey's Anatomy. Now, we didn't start watching that show until way late in the game, and we've been binging it like 3-4 episodes at a time. And we're almost caught up, but that's not what this is about. The other night, we were watching a particular episode that dealt a young boy had forgotten to take or left his keys in the house. And he realized that. He goes to his neighbors and he tells them, like his parents told him to do. And then he attempted to climb into the window of the house. Now, this was a person of color. And the police show up. And I'm fairly certain you know what happens next. Well, they shot the boy. The boy was rushed to the hospital. Yes, I'm going to spoiler alert here, people. The boy dies. So, at the end of the episode, Bailey and her husband they look at one another at the hospital and they say, it's time to have the talk. Now, my wife and I had no idea what this talk was. You know, usually when two parents say that it's time to have the talk with their child, it's about the birds and the bees or something like that. So the last scene in the episode is Bailey and her husband sitting with their child. And they proceed to tell this young boy what to do when he is stopped by the police. And they tell him things like, no sudden movements, be polite, always tell them everything you're about to do, and above all else, don't run away. Even if you're not guilty, even if you're afraid, don't run away. Now that's only the gist of the talk. I'm sure that there are plenty of parents out there who know the talk and have had the talk with their child. Now, what I realized is this. I have tried on social media to help to make people aware that not only white privilege exists, but what it is. And I realized that watching that episode, I saw a perfect example of a glaring example of what white privilege is. And it is this. As a white male, it would never have occurred to me to have that talk with my kids. I never had to sit my kids down and say, when you are stopped by the police, you need to do these things. Otherwise, you could get taken into jail or shot. Never. I never had to have that conversation with my kids. Now, if I was a person of color whose children were of color, I would have had to have that conversation. No matter how good, wonderful, law-abiding, and sweet those kids were, I would have to have that conversation. And that, my friends, is white privilege personified. Because as a white male with white kids, I did not have to think. I didn't have to consider that conversation. I did not have to have this conversation with my children that black parents have to have with their children. Have to have being the operative phrase. Now, if you think that white privilege doesn't exist, you stop a moment and you consider, if you are a white parent, have you ever had to consider the idea of having that conversation with your children? And if not, welcome to white privilege. Now, I try not to get political here, which is hard for me because I'm a very political person. And I have a lot of opinions. But this time around, I felt like I had to say something because it hit me really hard. And when something like that hits you, you gotta speak up. So, there you have it. That is my attempt at helping people to understand not only that white privilege exists, but what it is. You may or may not agree with me. And if you don't agree with me, I would hope that you would at least take a moment to consider what I've said. Thank you for listening. Keep your eyes open and be alert, people. And be aware. And as people want to say, be woke. Thank you.